Good evening, everyone. Again, just to introduce myself for those who are new to the platform. My name is Ronald Onyango, and I am a solicitor, Supreme Court of England and Wales, also an advocate of High Court of Kenya. Now, I live in Manchester and practice law in the UK. This is for information purposes only, just for some housekeeping. This is not advice in any form or shape. Bespoke legal advice should always be taken for your circumstances, each individual circumstance. So if you got something that you wish to discuss that perhaps we may, which will be mentioned or touched on this evening, please take this is not legal advice. You need to seek legal advice independently, and you can always contact us later, because obviously we have to bespoke the advice to your individual circumstances. This is for information only and for creating awareness. Today, we're going to be looking at self-sponsorship options for people who they may be having difficulties with their current status and situations, and those in different categories, and to see what's available for them. It's an opportunity to know what are the available options and viable opportunities that they maybe wish to consider. For a skilled worker or carers, what are the options who are not getting enough work? This is also going to be touching on entrepreneurs, people who wish to form businesses and perhaps pursue the option of a self-sponsorship. And also we'll touch on how does this impact on dependents. Normally the skilled workers would have dependents, and issues such as sole responsibility would arise. What happens to them? And I'll go through that on a step-by-step basis. So if you happen to fall in a category as a migrant, where perhaps you're feeling stuck, you're feeling a little bit confused, facing uncertainty with your work situation, you may have been a victim of a rogue agent when you were migrating, and unfortunately you got a COS in a company or employer, and you're not having any work. You're feeling a little bit confused, and just to let you aware that if your employer is not giving you work, it is very likely that it is going to impact on your indefinite leave to remain. Those things don't go away. So the sooner one is able to realize that and try to rectify or at least change your situation, because if it carries on at the time of applying for ILR, the records will illustrate that, of course, you've not been complying, and that will impact on you. Likely that it is going to impact on your indefinite leave to remain. Those things don't go away. So the sooner one is able to realize that and try to rectify or at least change your situation, the better for you. Because if it carries on at the time of applying for ILR, the records will illustrate that, of course, you've not been complying, and that will impact on you. So it's important that we're able to discuss these issues candidly, and you take the remedy that is required. Information there later on. Now, so as I was talking about, if you're facing any of those situations I mentioned, you're an employee of a company, you could be a carer, a skilled worker, and you feel a little bit stuck and confused. What's happening, because you were misled that you're coming to a job, and unfortunately upon arriving in the UK, things are not exactly as were represented to you. The employer that you have is not a genuine employer, because they are unable to offer you genuine employment, and as I said earlier, it will impact on your ILR when it comes to applying for that. It could be also that you work for an employer who has unfortunately had their sponsor license cancelled or revoked, or that kind of scenario. It could be that you are a student who is coming at the end of their degree, or perhaps just wish to consider switching. It could be that you are a graduate visa holder on what's known as the PSW, and you're seeking to find an alternative settlement route, because the 2 years normally do not lead to that, and you're considering your options. It could be that you are a dependent who is seeking to, you previously relied on your main sponsor on their COS, but you want to chart your own visa path and wish to be independent, for whatever reasons you may have. It could be that perhaps you are a man or a woman in a relationship with someone who's a sponsor holder, a COS holder, and perhaps a victim of domestic violence. And that could be a man or a woman. The whole, for information, go through the same thing. Men and women suffer domestic violence. It could be physical, emotional, controlling behavior, and the like, be financial or just coercive behavior. It could be that one, you are abroad and you just wish to explore what are the options for you to migrate to the UK, and taking it from your existing business that you may have or an idea that you have, and you wish to expound that to a concept. So those are some of the possibilities, or some of the circumstances people may be falling into, or one or the other, and it's good to explore. If you happen to be that category, do you have options? Yeah. Now, the circumstances I've just mentioned earlier, if anyone falls in any of those, there could be possible, alternative routes that one may consider. And I'll just touch on some of them for consideration. One, the one that I normally talk a lot about and is being very helpful a lot is a self-sponsorship. This is the business immigration route. This is where you actually conceptualize a company, register a company, or buy a company, and that company is in time used to apply for a sponsorship license, and you extract as COS from it. So you're actually employed by your own company. That is one route that people in the category I just mentioned earlier could consider. The other option that may be of consideration is a human rights application. This is usually outside the immigration rules and is on discretional basis. It's mostly focused on compassionate and human rights basis, and there's a need to put in together your circumstances, what you may be going through, the difficulties you're having, and explain what has happened, and the Home Office will have to make a decision on a discretional basis whether they should let you stay. Again, in circumstances where one is having financial difficulties, there's also an option to apply for what's known as the fee waiver. Fee waiver is where you will be exempted from meeting or paying the Home Office fees. Yeah. Again, this is quite a worthy consideration. If somebody has not been working, as for example, due to the circumstances I alluded to earlier, and they haven't got the funds to pay for the Home Office fees, which can be quite hefty. It can be important that they know that this option does exist. The other consideration which I would like people to be aware is about there are many people who, as a result of the stress they go through, the difficulties in their living environment, they become victims of domestic violence. Now, this could be men or women. When I say domestic violence, it's easy to assume it's only the women, but I need to emphasize that a lot of men are also victims of domestic violence. And domestic violence is considered to take place in the form of either physical abuse or mental abuse and controlling behavior, financial manipulation and control, and where someone's own free will is limited and they cannot exercise their own free will. In those circumstances, which if demonstrated and proved, this could be a way that would help someone to regulate their status, especially if they're switching from one of the skilled worker routes. But it's important that you're aware that one would be required to prove this sort of claim, and it's important that you know that evidence keeping is important. You may want to report it to the GP, social worker, or keep a police report, and any sort of independent evidence that may be of use. That is normally required. Now, I now digress back to what I said earlier. What is self-sponsorship?